country you know, rich or poor, is drowning in debt, and nobody ever stops to ask the most obvious question. If every country owes money, then who is the person or the power collecting all of it? And once you understand the answer, you will never look at the global financial system the same way again. In this video, you will finally understand the truth behind global debt in the simplest way possible. You will learn who the real creditors are and why the world is designed to stay in permanent debt. And by the end, you'll see how this hidden system quietly affects your everyday life without you even noticing. Imagine you have a friend named Sam who works hard, pays his bills, and still feels like he's always behind. No matter how much he earns, something always pulls him back: loans, taxes, rising prices, unexpected expenses. One day Sam asks himself, why does it feel like the whole world runs on debt? Sam notices every country on the news is borrowing money for something: roads, hospitals, wars, rescues, everything. He sees politicians arguing about debt limits, interest payments, and deficits, but none of it makes sense to him. He wonders, if countries are always in debt, aren't they supposed to pay it back someday? But that day never comes, and that's when it hits him. Maybe the system isn't broken at all. Maybe the system was built exactly this way on purpose. And the more Sam learns, the more he realizes that the world's debt story is not what we were taught to believe. When a normal person borrows money, they owe a bank or a lender they can see. But when a country borrows money, the debt comes from many different sources, not just one. It's a mix of foreign governments, international institutions, private banks, and even everyday citizens. Many people don't realize that countries borrow from people inside their own borders too. When a government sells bonds, regular citizens buy them, and that becomes national debt. So part of a country's debt is actually money it owes to its own people. But here's where things get strange. If a country owes money to its own people, then isn't that basically owing money to itself? Why does the system look so confusing when the truth is hiding in plain sight? One of the biggest creditors to countries are private banks. You already know banks like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and big European lenders. These banks lend money to governments and make profit from interest payments. To them, national debt is one of the safest, most profitable businesses in the world. Banks don't lend out money they have. They lend out money they create. This means countries borrow money that didn't exist until the loan was issued. And then they spend years, sometimes decades, paying it back with interest. The world's biggest secret is that banks profit more when countries stay in debt, not when they get out of it. It creates dependence. And dependence creates control. These two global institutions lend money to countries in crisis. On the surface, it looks like they help nations recover and grow. But behind the scenes, loans come with strict conditions that reshape entire economies. These conditions often force countries to cut spending, privatize services, or increase taxes. People feel the pressure long before politicians do. This makes global institutions powerful creditors that can influence how countries operate. Have you ever wondered why so many countries have the same economic problems? It's because many follow the same rules required by the same lenders. And these rules were never designed for ordinary people. They were designed for stability and profit. Nations also lend money to each other based on their interests. For example, China holds a large amount of US debt, and the US holds debt from many other countries. This creates a network where everyone owes everyone else. This system ties countries together and prevents them from acting alone. Debt becomes a tool of diplomacy, not just finance. And the public rarely sees the real reasons behind who lends money to whom. But here's the part that shocks most people. Even if one country owes money to another, that still doesn't fully answer the question, who is the ultimate creditor? Because the biggest lender isn't a person or a country at all. This is the invisible lender nobody talks about. The global market is made up of investment funds, pension funds, corporations, banks, and wealthy individuals all lending money to governments. They buy government bonds, bills, and securities, becoming silent creditors in the background. This market decides interest rates, debt prices, and how risky a country looks. Its decisions can make or break entire economies. And the craziest part is, no single person controls it. It's a giant machine powered by millions of investors. This is why countries fear losing market confidence. If the market pulls away, borrowing becomes impossible overnight, and a country without borrowing power collapses fast. Countries are not expected to pay off their debt fully. They only need to keep paying interest and refinancing old debt with new debt. This is why national debt keeps growing forever instead of disappearing. Debt is not a temporary emergency, it's the foundation of the global economy. It's the fuel governments use to keep everything running. And the system depends on people not fully understanding how it works. Every country sits in a pyramid of borrowing where each layer depends on the one above it. Governments borrow from banks, banks borrow from central banks, and central banks rely on global trust. This chain continues endlessly because the system collapses the moment trust breaks. The real danger is not the debt itself, but what happens when people stop believing the debt will be paid. When trust dies, countries fall faster than anyone expects. That was the lesson from every major financial crisis. Most countries borrow in US dollars because it's seen as the safest currency in the world. This means even if the US is in debt, other nations still trust it more than their own systems. That strange imbalance gives America enormous power. Whenever developing countries borrow money, wealthy nations indirectly benefit through interest, trade advantages, and global influence. It's a system where the lender profits before the borrower even finishes using the money. Some call it financial gravity because the rich nations pull the poorer ones toward them. But what if I told you that even rich countries are trapped in the same system they built? What if the lender is also a borrower? That's where the story gets even stranger. China lends billions to countries across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East, gaining strategic control in return. But at the same time, China itself owes trillions in internal debt to its own banks and provinces. It's like someone running a giant lending business while being buried under their own loans. Most people don't know that most of a country's debt is not borrowed from other nations. It comes from its own citizens, banks, funds, pension plans, and companies. Countries owe money not just to foreign powers but mostly to their own people. This means the real creditor might be someone you never expected. Because if governments owe money to pension funds, guess who is indirectly funding the country's debt? Ordinary people like you. Here's the truth nobody explains. Countries stay alive financially because citizens keep saving money in banks, investing in bonds, and paying taxes. Every time you deposit money, buy a savings certificate, or use a pension fund, the government uses that money to run the country. The system only works because people trust it will not collapse. And the rich understand something important. Debt is not a burden if you control the interest flow. They invest in government bonds because they know the system always protects the lenders first. Actionable steps. Step 1. Track where your money sits. Look at where you save, where you invest, and where your money stays silently for years. Understand that every financial system uses your money to fund government operations. The moment you know this, you can make smarter decisions. Step 2. Become a small-scale creditor. You can buy government bonds, treasury bills, and safe funds that essentially make you a lender to your own country. When you do this, the system starts paying you instead of using your money for free. This is how ordinary people can join the side of the creditors. Step 3. Build assets that pay you back. Instead of fearing the debt system, position yourself to benefit from its structure. Invest in things that grow over time: index funds, savings bonds, or income-generating assets. This puts you in the same position that wealthy nations and billionaires take advantage of. The world's debt may look terrifying, but it only controls people who never learn how it works. Once you understand the rules, you stop being a victim of the system and start becoming a participant. You don't need millions to benefit. You only need awareness and small, consistent steps. Your financial future changes the moment you decide to take control instead of living confused or afraid. If this video opened your eyes even a little, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Because the next video will take you even deeper into the hidden financial world nobody teaches us about.